Redditors who have been clinically dead. What did you experience in death, if anything? I coded after surgery. I remember being able to see and hear everything and understand what was happening. But I couldn't physically feel anything. It was deeply unsettling. My heart also stopped after surgery 3 years ago. I only remember them getting me back and drifting between darkness and seeing the nurses panic. Like you mentioned, I felt nothing and was just an impartial observer. The aftermath was the worst, realizing how close I was to oblivion and recalling the dissociation was horrifying. People often say, "Oh, I'm not worried, she's a fighter," when someone gets very ill. But me, I feel like I was just ready to watch myself fade into the dark despite being content and having things to live for. Unsettling is exactly the right word. That was the weird part for me, too. The impartiality. It's like the emotional part of my brain stopped working before the intellectual part did. I basically was just patiently waiting to find out whether I was going to be dead or not. I had no feeling about it at all at the time. The unsettled feeling came later. My wife and I discussed this at length. 4 years ago, she died twice in 3 months, needing full resuscitation both times. Both were lengthy rescues. One resuscitation was off and on for nearly 40 minutes. I asked her later when she had recovered if she remembered anything at all during the times she was clinically dead. She remembered nothing. Blackness. No light. No relatives and former pets waiting for her. Just black. Thankfully. Also no pain. She finally passed 18 months ago, and I hope she felt no pain or worry the final time. Edit Chad. It started with 2 spontaneous brain bleeds. Technically, it started with her having lupus. The first brain bleed led to her passing, but they did a craniotomy, revived her, then a re-bleed. The trauma from all that caused her lupus to set fire, which led to complete kidney failure and another cardiac arrest, passing and recovery, which led to 2 strokes. She recovered enough to be home and mostly independent, but having to go to dialysis 3 times a week for 3 years. She passed the final test to get on the kidney transplant list on Wednesday, and had a massive cardiac, respiratory event at dialysis on Friday where she passed again, but was kept alive on life support. I waited a week hoping for recovery, but we disconnected life support per her wishes, a topic we had talked about many times. I'm sorry for your loss and for what sounds like a lot of trauma leading up to it. I don't know what I experienced while I was dead, but when I woke back up, so to speak, I remember wanting to experience it permanently. A deep slumber that feels euphoric. Seriously, I hate waking up after a good night's sleep. Just want to stay there. A friend of mine described death. She was technically dead twice, as being surrounded by darkness and floating with some sort of warm gel-like substance covering her. She never wanted to leave that state. Oh my GPD, that literally described the tanks that the machines used in the Matrix. Oh fuck! Exclamation mark. I died twice after I got MRSA into my heart area after a major surgery. I don't remember much of anything when I was out. Cliché as it was, I saw a light. But damn, that year sucked. Understatement of the year, LMAO. Yeah, that year where I died sucked pretty bad. When I was 15, I was scheduled to do a tilt table test. They lean you up at an angle on a table, because I was consistently experiencing dizziness and fainting spells. After about 20 minutes, the doctor tilted the table back and I could feel myself passing out. I got severe tunnel vision and lost like 95% of my eyesight. Like looking through a straw, and then I blacked out. I remember hearing the doctor call the code and my father cussing at the doctor that he killed me. I remember hearing a lot of slamming and banging around, which I assumed was the crash cart and nurses shoving into this small testing room. I felt a pressure on my chest, like when you have someone stand on your back to crack it, which I found out later was the nurses doing CPR. I saw an array of vivid colors kind of dancing around, forming objects in the dark. The scariest thing was how peaceful it felt. Just pure 100% peace. No panic, no pain, no sadness, nothing, just bliss. I coded for just under 2 minutes, and as soon as I came to and opened my eyes, I felt seriously angry and hostile. I started ripping off whatever I could get my hands on and yelling at the doctor to get me off the table. Asterisk edit I an asterisk for spelling. And forgetting to mention my heart stopped because I had an undiagnosed heart problem. Wolf Parkinson White, that caused my heart to more or less misfire. Asterisk asterisk edit numero 2 asterisk asterisk this blew up way more than I thought. I'm trying to respond to every comment I can. Feel free to PM me if you have any more questions or want more insight. Asterisk edit tree fitty asterisk I think I caught up with all the comments, so I just wanted to say thanks to everyone that responded. Not really a big poster on Reddit, so this was amazing for me to be able to talk so many people that have dealt with and are still dealing with WPW or were curious about my story. Shoot me a PM if you have any more questions. What medically caused you to die? Did you find out what was causing your fainting spells? Clinically dead on 2 separate occasions. I didn't experience any visions or light, and I didn't feel anything at all. It was like a switch was flipped and my existence was just a shut off. Coming back was another story. Slowly I was able to hear the voices of those around me fading in. And they slowly got louder until I was able to open my eyes. That's it. Nothing spectacular. 1 second you're here, 1 second you're not. Somewhat comforting. Not mine, but the head of my program was in a horrible car accident. She was dead for a few minutes on the scene while paramedics worked on her. She said it was the most amazing feeling she's ever experienced. It was blank black nothing. But that was perfectly fine. And she felt a comfort she can't even explain. She remembers being angry at the man working on her when she finally came back to her body because she wanted to stay there. She told us she can't wait to experience it again when it's really her turn. Edit. I'm really pleased this resonated so strongly with so many of you. I wanted to add some detail about her. She's not religious in the slightest. And she actively quashes our ghost stories and shit. Mortuary students. Because she only believes in tangible things. So she fully turned me into a believer. Felt it's important I make a distinction. She was very adamant about when telling us this story. She's not advocating suicide. She stressed that she isn't telling us she's trying to reach this place again, but that when it was her time she was going to be comfortable embracing it. Greater than she told us she can't wait to experience it again when it's really her turn. This was honestly very comforting in a weird and unexpected way. A friend of mine described it as deeply relaxing in that she could feel herself drifting away, but was brought back just as she was ready to leave. After that, she embraced life and death. She said she doesn't fear death anymore since it was so relaxing to experience. This seems to be the majority of experiences in this thread. Makes me feel comfort and fear simultaneously. Really weird. My girlfriend is anaphylactic, and it is triggered by a chemical called salicylate, found in pretty much every food. When she was in high school she had her first big reaction, and the school nurses refused to administer her EpiPen, adrenaline shot, until the ambulance got there. Now obviously, having an anaphylactic reaction doesn't give you a lot of waiting time. So by the time the ambulance got to her school she was in pretty bad shape and barely conscious. The paramedics immediately administered one of her EpiPens, called the nurses fucking twats, and loaded her into the ambulance as her mother arrived. She continued to fade, so they gave her a direct injection of adrenaline this time. Still nothing. They give her a second direct injection of adrenaline, and this time it hits her about 30 seconds later all at once, and her heart fails. She stops breathing. No pulse. Nothing. Dead to the world. For about 2 minutes and 46 seconds she was clinically dead. And the scariest thing is, she saw nothing. She tells me that when you are losing consciousness you can't tell the difference between waves of drowsiness and when your body actually shuts down. All she saw was the darkness of her eyelids. And it felt like going into an extremely calm sleep where she couldn't hear or feel anything. And she didn't mind it, all despite the fact her mother and the paramedics were screaming at her to keep her eyes open, and the ambulance was flying towards the hospital. She miraculously just came back to life almost 3 minutes later as they were giving her chest compressions. And the cardiologist that assessed her later stated that all the adrenaline in her body was enough to not only stop her heart, but to also restart it with a little help from the paramedic pumping it around. But still to this day, she can't differentiate falling asleep after a long day and dying. I hope that school nurse got into serious hot water over that. By all that may be holy. An EpiPen is for *immediate *use. That's what they are for. This one heated me up. I'm a substitute teacher, and even were given instruction on how to use one. All teachers are trained, so the rule is that if we are not trained, get a teacher and make sure it's administered immediately. I agree. That nurse should have been in trouble, if not fired. Awesome. Everyone seems to be in agreement that death was awesome and euphoric. That is comforting to hear. Thanks everyone. I agree with this. Looking forward to the rest of my hopefully long life, knowing death will be a cool, non-scary experience when the time comes. As someone who lost his younger brother 4 months ago to psychosis-induced suicide after years of painful and miserable addiction and anxiety and depression, many of these comments give me more of a sense of peace that he just couldn't be here anymore and needed to go. I'll hope he felt okay in his final moments and wasn't in the constant pain he felt 24/7 here and in his mind. Serious tag or not, I'm glad the majority of the comments seem genuine. Thank you. My sister killed herself in November of last year at the age of 15. My mother couldn't take the grief and killed herself a couple of weeks ago. I hope they are both at peace, because they hated it here. No heaven, no hell. I hope it's just peace. This thread and stories like these give me hope. I was dead for a very short period of time. Like 30 seconds to a minute. There's a big misconception about it. It's not like sleeping at all. I'll try to explain. There's always a sort of white noise in the back of my mind. It quiets down when I sleep, but it's still there. I never noticed it before I died, but I do now. I don't want to romanticize death, but when I was out, it was like this perfect nothingness. And nothingness is so hard to imagine normally. But once you experience it, and they bring you back, part of you wishes you could have stayed. There's no positive feelings there, obviously, but it takes away everything bad too. All your stress, the nightmares, the troubles, all gone. Just nothing exists. It's beautiful in a way. I'm not suicidal at all, and hope to live the rest of a long and happy life. But I'm very much looking forward to a lack of consciousness when I do eventually pass again. And I can honestly say I don't fear death anymore. I know 3 people that have been clinically dead and have come back. What they described as something much different than what people are talking about here. They all said, if you paraphrase, that it feels as if you're passing out. Someone compared it to ODing on whippets. Nitrous oxide. A feeling of your conscience slowly getting focused into one point in the exact middle of your head, while your limbs lose feeling in a tingling, pleasant way, and then you lose consciousness. One girl said that when she came back into conscience she was hallucinating because she had no idea what was going on, and that she started dreaming of something safe, i.e. her mother hugging her in a warm bed. My father committed suicide recently this year, and these responses are helping me find some comfort that his last moments were peaceful. Edit. I just wanted to say thank you to all of those that reached out. I'm going to counseling soon to help get through the hard times. I'm sorry for those that have experienced loss. And I'm glad we got to share this feeling of peace reading these, even if it's just for a moment. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.